I'm Dr. Jordin Wiggins, and this is the Pleasure Principles podcast. Join me on this journey where sex, science, and sensuality meet. Let's change the conversation around sex and pleasure together. Hello, superwomen. Today, I want to welcome Makini Smith. She is a mindset coach, author, podcast host, and just all-around badass that I met on it was a anti-hustle
manifesto. Yep.
Yes, with Eleanor Beaton, which was just such an amazing conversation. So welcome. And even more, that's how we met. And then I went on your podcast and sort of, you just said, how are you doing? And I said a sentence or two, like I basically trauma dumped on you. I never even met you. And you're like, I get it. And I thought that no one in the world would understand. That's how isolated, alone, and ashamed I felt. So I'm super excited to have this conversation because I think it's going to impact a lot of our listeners. So why don't you tell us a little bit about you, what you do for work, just so we have the cold notes.
Absolutely. So a little bit about me. Where do I start? Mother of three. I've been a full-time entrepreneur since 2009. My mentor, who passed away just over a year and a half ago, Bob Proctor, basically helped me shift my entire paradigm, my entire belief about what is possible and what we can attain in this world. And I am also a 5-time author. I write personal development books, and I also have a podcast called the H.E.A.L podcast, which ranks globally in the top 1.5% of most popular shows out there.
And it's amazing. We're going to link it in the show notes. Yeah, which I didn't even realize. And my coach is American, and I have several American friends, and they laugh at us Canadians because I actually was a guest on another podcast, and she's like, you rank in the top 2.5% globally. And I was like, oh, I do? And she's like, yeah, I wouldn't have had you as a guest if you didn't. So it's like we quietly are these big deals, sort of, but I didn't even know that was a thing. So anyways, her podcast is amazing. Have to check it out. So toxic relationships has been a big, big topic for me and my audience lately, which are a lot of high functioning, people pleasing women.
Mm-hmm.
Get ourselves in these situations. That's like, ooh, how did this happen? How did I get here? Any thoughts, comments? Because everything you've said to me on this topic resonates. It's just like, how does she know? It's exactly the truth on how high achieving women might be susceptible to being in a toxic relationship.
Wow. Okay. So where do we even start? I think that a lot of high achieving, successful women are actually that way because of their own trauma responses. And that's my personal opinion.
I agree. It's true for me.
A lot of us, because of our childhood wounds and childhood traumas, we strive for success, accolades, greatness. We strive to help other people, to make an impact, to make a difference, because we don't want other people to feel how we felt. We want to help, we want to nurture, we want to do all these things. And a lot of the women that I know that are super, super, super successful have had stories of toxic relationships. And people are like, oh, well, you're super successful in all these areas of your life, and then in this area, you suck.
It's me, and it's my clients, a lot of them.
It's like, we check all the boxes, we're, great moms, and in social things, we contribute in this way, and we're giving back in the world here, and, we're building a business here. We're checking all those boxes. And I feel like that makes us a target, because when we are checking all these boxes and we're single, then you have these people who will approach us because they see that. They're like, oh, I know what's missing. I am going to pretend to be that missing piece. And then they come in and they don't show up as toxic. They come in and pretend to be who they think we want them to be. But at the end of the day, that mask can only stay on for so long. And then when you start to build a relationship with this person and you let your walls down and you start to trust them, and then all hell breaks loose.
That was literally what came to my mind, is all hell breaks loose. And do you think that there is shame, especially with high achieving, high functioning women, that we get in this situation and the relationship doesn't meet our needs? It is not what we thought it was in the beginning. We might have a child, or there might be financial entanglement, and we can talk about all this stuff, but is there it almost seems like there's this shame and then this, oh my goodness, how am I going to make this work? How am I going to overfunction and pretzel myself? Is that at all accurate in your?
Yes, myself included, and many of the women that I've spoken to since I've shared my story publicly, there are many women that are extremely successful that have been in these toxic relationships with psychological abuse, financial abuse, emotional abuse, you name it. And some of them say they will never speak publicly about it because of the shame. They are embarrassed that they are, quote unquote, this successful, but then got caught up in such a thing, or that, they're viewed in a certain light, and then it's going to discredit their character, their whatever. People are going to lose trust in them because they fell for something. It's very often you hear how did I fall for that? I can't believe I fell for that. I can't believe. So there's a lot of self-blame. There's a lot of,
and this, I should have known better. I should have seen the red flags. And it's like, no. These people do not present the red flags in the beginning. Or if, and I think there's this biological, when you first meet somebody, and the dopamine and the norepinephrine, there's that new relationship energy that is biological, which would make anyone overlook red flags.
Yeah.
But that these manipulative people or toxic people are intentionally being deceptive.
Yeah. So I think for, again, myself included, and a lot of the other women that I've spoken to, you get into these relationships and they present a certain way. And it's almost like, because they are so good at manipulating, you believe everything that you've been told. There's manipulation left, right, and center. And on top of the manipulation, they usually want things to present a certain way. The friends that they choose to introduce you to, the family that they choose to introduce you to create and build on that perception. Because if they were to introduce you to people who know the real them, it wouldn't be that same false persona. So oftentimes, if we are, when we get into those situations and then we're holding ourselves, I guess, to blame for accepting or tolerating or even believing any of these things, that's unfair to us. We were lied to. So I wish a lot of people, instead of playing the victim or being ashamed, it's the same way if, you were, I don't know, can't think of a particular example, but it's like if someone else robs you, you're not going to say how did I let that happen to me? That person came and took what they wanted.
Yes, intentionally. Took advantage of you. Yes.
It's not your fault. So I really wish that people would be kinder to themselves.
And I think there's we victim blame sort of as a society and a culture.
Absolutely. I've seen it left, right, and center. I've seen it under posts of other celebrities and influencers. I have heard it about myself. It's almost like people will say, well, if it was a toxic relationship, then you're both, well, obviously every scenario is co-created. Every situation is co-created. But if you've been lied and manipulated to, then your actions within it or under
Yes.
false pretenses.
Okay, and this is what I'm trying to like unpack for myself personally, for my clients, and because I think two well-intentioned people can be in a toxic relationship where just their nervous system reactivity, the way that they've been taught, the way that they shut down, or the way that they pursue, just they could be very well intentioned and it could still be toxic. You could still be caught in a trauma loop, even though there's two very well intentioned people. They're probably codependent, they probably have trauma in their past, etc.
Yeah.
But they want to do better. They want to make things worse. They truly care about the emotional experience of the other person. They have remorse. But the difference is when people aren't well intentioned, when they like truly try to manipulate.
Yeah.
And I was told, and when you go to school, like we talked about people with personality disorders and how it was so rare.
Yeah.
But
it's not rare.
It's not. No,
not
I think it's that these people are so hard to diagnose, and the court systems have not caught up, and like family court and like financial abuse laws. So let's talk about that, because this was, and again, this is another area I think of shame, and I think financial abuse, especially because a lot of our listeners are successful women, were susceptible, or it's even happened and we don't even know. So can you talk about that? Because you introduced me to financial abuse and I was like, oh, this has happened to me more than once in more than one relationship.
Yes. I mean, okay, so the different levels. I mean, there's a documentary called The Tinder Swindler, and that documentary is what helped me realize the financial abuse and the different levels of things. Because I was like, oh, that feels familiar. Oh, I can relate to that. So there's different types of financial abuse, but it's like they're basically using that to assert power or control over somebody else. There's different types in a sense where a financial abuser, you know, you could be in a relationship with someone and that person refuses to work. They refuse to have any source of income so that you become the main source of providing income. There are, you know, there's situations where it could be where I've had this experience with the opposite of, you know, bank accounts and things like that. Like they use that as power in a sense where they control everything. I had an ex that basically wanted me home barefoot and pregnant. And when they met me, I was doing stuff with my life. So it was, you know, they make all the money, they have the bank account, they control everything. I can't go anywhere because I don't have any of my own money. And if I wanted, it was, I'd have to ask. And then there's the other situation that I experienced a couple of years ago where they came in after I built the brand, built the business. They pretended to be in a good financial situation and then moved into my home. And all of a sudden they have no income. They can't pay anything. I'm paying for everything. They're making excuses as to constantly trying to start different businesses. Nothing's ever taking off until they leave with my credit cards ran up and my bank account empty. And then I start getting messages from all their exes that this is a pattern. And it's not small amounts of money, it's large sums of money. So I know very successful women that have been financially abused in a sense where they have multiple children with a person that refuses to work, has never worked. They pay for this person's car. This person, you know, uses their rental properties to go mess with other people, like totally taking full financial advantage and using that to control.
And then when you go to leave, then you realize that you have to pay support to this person who's been doing you dirty in more ways than one.
Yeah. Like you mentioned at the beginning of the episode, it's like the courts have not caught up to a lot of this and sometimes don't even recognize it. I had a client who is in Australia, married, had I think 2 or 3 kids with her husband, and he was using like spiritual abuse to start with to control her. A Christian woman does this, Christian woman does that. And then while she was trying to go through the divorce and she was showing like all of the evidence of narcissistic abuse, the courts didn't recognize that. And then we started looking into stuff here to realize they don't care. It's just like they don't care.
And how broken is that system? Like, okay, bruises on your body, okay, we care, but emotional abuse to a partner or to children, right? Because we know that these types of people also do damage to their children. But yeah, the courts are like, meh.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of our systems are created by men for men. So
We talk a lot about patriarchal culture and how it is designed to prop up men and have them succeed.
mhm.
So a lot of our clients, and it's funny because it's almost like you are willing at the beginning. Like we're taught you can do it all and you don't need a man. So I have a lot of clients that are successful that they've like retired their spouses. And I've even heard, not as much anymore, but that's like a goal or things that women in my masterminds and stuff would brag about. Like, oh, I retired my husband,
Mhm.
whatever. Yeah. And again, that is there a willing, so you retire somebody or they don't work and you're the primary breadwinner because maybe it was a decision that you made, right? Like I have this big career, he's going to stay at home, but then there comes a point or there's an event and it's usually with like their health or their intimate relationship when women come to me, but there's an event when they can't do it anymore or when there's
Mhm.
like their health gives out or when they need their partner to step
Yep.
back up because and sometimes I think we're not even necessarily, we're not talking like a full-on manipulative abuse situation, but we're talking about like a toxic relationship situation where like the men won't even step up when their partners are sick or they won't even like get a.
That's exactly what happened to me. That's exactly what happened to me. I had some severe health issues in my family, like cancer and fibroids, and all those things are very common. And my sister had passed away at 39. She had like issues with fibroids and some things happened. So when I was 39, I was having like severe hemorrhaging. They had to remove cancer cells in my cervix. Then they told me that they had to remove my uterus. And the person that I was with, who total like narcissistic personality disorder, did not realize. So the moment that I got sick was just after the first year of being together. I required lots of doctor's visits and I had to have a hysterectomy. So major surgery, major organ removed. And the plan was, okay, well, I've been providing financially for us. I'm going to be down for who knows how long right now. You need to get a job. Like all of these businesses you're trying to start that are not making any income, you need to actually go get a job. There was always an excuse as to why they couldn't or why it wasn't working out. But the day that I had the surgery, I remember there was an incident that happened, and then it was almost like mentally I shut down after the surgery. It's not even that I was in that much pain physically, it was mentally. And the next day I'm in bed and they basically came to me with like a notepad of things that I could do from bed to continue working so that they didn't have to, basically, how they could financially gain from my network, from my following, from my work that I have already put in. They had no intention of working. And my recovery was supposed to be 6 weeks long. And after 6 months, when things got worse, when they thought I had colon cancer, they had thought all kinds of stuff. So I required a lot more time off and couldn't function. Still, this person had no desire to work until we were living off my savings until it was done. And it was like the Wednesday, I made a comment about them being a dependent. And by the weekend, they were gone. Like moved out of my house, ghosted me, you name it. Money's done, they're done.
I I found it shocking when I listened to that part of your story in your podcast. I messaged you, and I remember I was in Toronto, like on my way to Toronto to get my hair done. And I wanted to puke then. Like, you're in bed, you had a hysterectomy, you had been supporting, and then now, right? It's a relationship, it's a team. You want your partner to step up and help and pitch in. And then they're going to sit there and blame you and tell you what you can do from bed. Like, and I still want to puke. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
I know.
I, I
I almost have no words.
I have to laugh about it now because it just seems unreal. And if I hadn't done as much work as I have since then, I wouldn't even be able to talk about my story. Like you said, there's shame behind it. There's like almost like shock, like, did this really happen? Like I cannot believe this was my life. So I can laugh about it now because it's like I'm in such a different place. But yeah, there are people out there like that.
And I wasn't, and I've sort of been on both ends of the financial situation. One where I was a primary breadwinner and no ambition to do more, gambled, and took out a second mortgage on our house to try and pay off the debt without me knowing. Like, again, that happened. That is financial abuse. I didn't know this at the time. And the other end of the spectrum where it's like, I'm the primary breadwinner, don't worry about it, work part-time, you know, I'll support you. And then the mask fell off, and like, you know, that was on a Tuesday, and the Sunday they were out. So it's very fascinating, the lengths that these manipulative people would go to. And my first relationship that I was referring to, I would say that that would be like more on the toxic side, that it wasn't like there was abandonment wounds there, and I don't think he wanted to lose me, and also didn't want to get help and that. So, but again, like, it's abuse. It's not okay, and it's almost shameful and embarrassing to talk about.
Absolutely. And I've been shamed for sharing parts of my story on many different platforms, but I shared my story on the Dear Future Wifey podcast, and it's like globally in like the top, I don't know, 0.02%. It's a very popular podcast. And because a lot of their audience is faith-based Christian, it was like, you guys weren't married, you shouldn't have been living together, or I would never give someone my money, da da da. And it was like, if they took a second to actually hear my story, it's not like I was handing this person money for no reason, saying, here, take this, or take that. So people's perception of hearing parts of your story, they'll shame you for without knowing all the details. There are people who were mutual friends of both of ours that no longer speak to me because I've been sharing my story. And obviously, with someone who is a manipulator or someone who is trying to protect their own lies,
false persona.
Exactly, false persona. That person is, twisting the narrative. And of course, they were only trying to help me and
They're
my
the
children.
victim. They're always the victim.
They're the victim.
The victim and the hero at the same time. How is that a thing?
Same time.
At the same time.
Yeah.
I'm still mind blown by that.
Yeah, exactly. So it is challenging, but at the end of the day, like, I cannot deny my truth. No one else, like, it happened. It's not a story that I made up. It happened. My kids who live in my house, 3 grown children, witnesses. It happened. Even my ex-husband was in shock with, like, he was like, what do you mean? What? Like, and he's another head case. Like, it happened.
It's like, and I'm currently dealing with legal things, so I'm waiting for those to be done to fully share my story, and what has happened to me. But even alluding to the fact that I would share and I would speak up, because I feel like we need to talk about these things. And if we get it out in the open and we air it out, then there is less shame. And like, things fester in the dark, right?
Yeah,
The shame,
absolutely.
and like it keeps women stuck in this cycle. It keeps the legal system from not protecting people. Like we need to have these conversations.
Absolutely.
And I had she's another doctor, well respected, been through a divorce or two herself, and she said, oh, but like you won't share it, like you won't talk about that publicly, like you wouldn't do that to him. Excuse me. What about what he did to me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and
There are
it's
a lot
like
of people that protect the abusers. And I don't know what their own reasoning is, but it is very common. Um, and sometimes the people who are close to the abuser, they call them their flying monkeys. It's from like what is it?
Wizard of Oz.
There we go, Wizard of Oz. But they basically believe everything that the abuser says. They are their cheerleaders. They are, trashing you for the abuser as well. Unfortunately, those people do exist, but to anyone who has experienced this, at the end of the day, you don't owe anyone an explanation. Let them talk, let them say whatever they need to say. Honestly, the best revenge in all of it is being successful at what you're doing. Them seeing you thrive pisses them the hell off because they thought they broke you. That was their objective. And them not having the power and control to stop you from thriving and stop you from being successful, oh, you're doing plenty of damage without saying a word.
Yeah, I was just, and I even notice I've recently become a Kardashian watcher in the last like 3 weeks. I started watching the new series, and they're even talking a lot about like, I'll never say anything bad in front of the kids and like all this stuff. And I understand that children are innocent and need to be protected and insulated and things as much as possible. But I feel like there is even an element of victim blaming in that, or hiding in that. Like if you're pretending like dad isn't abusing me and I'm going to protect you from the media and only let you watch Apple TV and only do all of these things,
Mm-hmm.
like, are you really protecting the
Right.
kids?
Exactly. And I agree with you where like, yes, kids are kids and you don't bring them into adult arguments. So I don't believe in saying things like, your dad is but instead, this type of behavior is toxic. These things are abuse so that they can see for themselves what is right and what is wrong. Because now my kids are old enough to be like, oh, yeah, that dude was toxic.
Yes. Yeah. And age, right? Like there's nuances, and but I think totally hiding the situation and pretending like everything's fine, or making the best of it when your needs aren't being met, like we're just perpetuating the toxic dynamic.
Yeah. Yeah. I think awareness is key because a lot of us who have experienced these things, we either didn't hear anyone talk about it before or we didn't know about it because we didn't know about it. So us having these conversations, us putting content out there to bring awareness is the best thing that we can possibly do. Because when I was on my healing journey from my experience, about a 6 months to a year after it happened is when I started talking about it publicly, because I didn't want to speak from an unhealed place, because I probably could have said a lot of things that didn't need to be said. But I went through, I guess, a phase where I was talking about it very often. I was talking about it very often on my Instagram, on Facebook, on the podcast, you name it. But the point of it was to bring awareness. And I do not regret helping the thousands or hundreds of thousands of people
That you've reached.
that I was able to reach just through sharing that. I've had so many women that came into my DMs that needed support, direction to how to safely exit the toxic relationship, where they needed support on knowing where shelters and facilities are in their area, where they needed support for their kids. Like, I will never regret sharing my story because of the people that need help. And I needed it and didn't have that information or support.
Yeah. And if we're shamed into silence, then we stay stuck or get ill, or the outcomes are not good. But when we talk about it and women can see the similarities in their stories, it's like the private plane thing.
Yes. Yeah.
That was a love bomb for me at the beginning too. And it's like, how is this like, how are they the same?
Yeah.
They're different, but they're the same.
They're different. They come in different forms. It's the same thing in a different package, but they come in different forms.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So this is, I'm asking for me, but also because I know a lot of the listeners probably want to write a book. I've written one, looking at doing another. You've done 5?
Yes. And I also help other women to publish as well.
And what, like, if women are sitting on a story or want to write a book, do you have advice for them, tips?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, so all 5 of my books are personal development tools. The first one was me sharing my story. I'm going to say pre the huge narcissistic abuse experience, but also it does speak to a couple of my past toxic relationships, how I worked through that. But they're all really tools to help other people, walk in their greatness. But I've had a couple of clients that have written books specific to their abuse experiences, specific to narcissistic abuse. So anyone who wants to write a book, it's like, think about what you want the reader to take away from what you're writing. Like, don't write it from, just like vomiting all of your story out there, but what lessons do you want to leave with other people? What tools do you want to offer? Putting that together and then breaking it down into like the different segments that you want to talk about, or different chapters, or how you want to outline those things, and then work from there. And then we publish it, basically giving women access to the same tools and resources as traditional publishers. There's a lot of women out there that have a story. We all have a story at the end of the day, but there's a lot of women that have a story, that want to publish a story, that have no idea how, or they don't want to go through just the Amazon route. They want to be able to have their books sold globally in, big box stores. Like, my book's available in like Walmart and Target and all that great stuff. So I help other women do the same.
I need you to publish my second book.
I'm here, girl. I got you.
It's good. I have a title too. And every time I tell people the title, I'll text you after. They're like, oh, that's good. I'm like, I know this is going to be like even bigger than the first one. So, okay. I'm excited. Yeah. I'm still, because it is fresh and we talked like the healing journey. I'm massive on sharing from like the scar, not the open wound.
Yes.
So I still feel like I have healing and awareness, and some parts of the story are not complete yet. So
right. I get it.
It's happening, but I need to be a little more healed. Okay, so I always end these episodes with a couple questions. What do you do for pleasure, joy? What makes you feel good?
I am probably one of the most simple people that someone may encounter. Like, people look at my life online and think that I like to go out and do all these extravagant things. I enjoy being with my loved ones in nature. I enjoy conservation areas. I enjoy nature walks. I enjoy trips to like waterfalls, and I don't know why, but that just makes me feel
so healing.
Yeah.
Grounded.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love that. I even tell clients, like, go outside and put your feet on the earth for 5 minutes in between calls or your work day, because just like little bits, even if we can't make it out to the waterfall, which sounds amazing. And actually, I'm going to add that. I'm going to take my daughter. I'm going to add that to our to-do list. This is why I like talking about these things, because it gives other, like we have a couple around where I live. Why have I not? I haven't been in a couple of years.
Explore. There's like what I did just about a year and a half ago. Even I took a week for my birthday and every day explored a different trail that led to some kind of falls. So I went out to like Ancaster and Hamilton and Niagara and did all those trails out there that led to different waterfalls. And just the grounding, the reconnecting, the calming down my nervous system, just being in the beauty of nature, it was just fabulous. So yeah.
So therapeutic. And another thing that we talk a lot about, because it doesn't feel, I feel like we tend to shrink our greatness or try not to shine too bright. So I talk about bragging or like something you're really, really proud of.
Mhm.
So could you share a brag with our audience to wrap up?
A recent brag.
Or
I
you can share several.
okay. So I had decided last year that I wanted to move away from doing one-on-one coaching and wanted to get more into being paid corporately to do stuff because I've been self-employed. I'm like, yeah, I just want money to flow to and through me. And I put that out into the universe and I was so focused and open about it. And then uh, in January, I had a corporation book a discovery call through my website. And when they started negotiating things with me, I thought, okay, is this really ever going to happen? But it did. And I basically charged them almost six figures for 6 sessions, and it feels great.
Ooh, I love it. And Superwoman, she had a desire and she put it out there, wasn't attached to the outcome, and knew her worth. So you were
Yes,
willing to receive it too.
absolutely. Absolutely.
That's huge. And I feel like we cut ourselves off, right, from so much potential, so much of what is possible by like even limiting what we desire.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of us do that unintentionally just by, whether it be our past or our childhood or, any of those things. But I think part of my healing process has been opening myself up to possibilities and things that I never had access to or never believed were possible for myself.
So, so true. So tell our listeners, where can they get in touch with you? What's the best place?
So I love to hang around on Instagram. I've been kind of less on there the last few months because I'm going to be a grandmother. But my main Instagram page is The Real Makini Smith. They can visit the website, A Walk in My Stilettos, if they're looking for any mindset coaching. And if they're looking for book publishing, it's legacyleavers.ca. And I'm on all the other platforms. I just don't spend as much time on there as I would like to. I'm trying to honor my body and listen to my body. And, we talked on the Anti-Hustle Manifesto. You can have all these social media platforms and spend all your time and energy there, but I want to actually like experience life and make memories and have these different experiences. So I've been spending less time on social and more time living and enjoying life.
I love it. That's a desire and a boundary, and that it feels good to hear that is what you're doing,
Yeah,
because we could just want to I could be doing more of this or more of that, and it's never ending. But
never ending.
prioritizing pleasure and what you desire, the family time, that's
Absolutely.
beautiful. So thank you for being so open and honest, and we will put all of those links in the show notes.
Thank you, Jordin. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Makini. Have a great week, everybody. If you like what you heard in this episode, leave me a rating. Your support helps me get discovered by more women like you. Together, we can change the conversation around women's sexual health and pleasure for you, your partners, and generations to come.